Hi, everybody. Happy Friday and happy Christmas Eve if you celebrate Christmas. I am Melanie Hirschhorn, content marketing strategist for authors. I help authors create amazing content marketing so that they can grow their influence and their brand online and do all the things and see their name in lights if that is what they desire. Thank you so much for being here. Today, I have a very special guest who has been so accommodating for me and all my craziness, having everybody home today, because normally we do this a little bit later in the day. And she's just been so gracious to join me at in the morning for me. So I want to introduce Judi Turkheimer, and I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that right because, oh, she's nodding. You can't see her, but I can. And so Judi has an amazing book that we are going to be talking about today, and it's called Finding Myself in a Nightmare, a mother's healing journey through her daughter's addiction. So we are going to be talking about that book. We're going to be talking about Judi's journey as a whole, not only through the story itself, but through writing the book and all that fun stuff. And so without further ado, hi, Judi. Thanks so much for coming.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me here. So excited.
Yay. Okay. So, gosh, I mean, the title says it all, doesn't it?
That was the intent.
I mean, a lot of people bury the lead. You didn't bury the lead. You just went for it. So for those of us who haven't had a moment to really dive in, can you give us sort of the overview of how you felt called to tell this story?
Um,
Or why?
I knew you were going to ask that question. I was thinking about it earlier. I have always been a person who shared my journey, my struggles, my whatever, because my belief is that if by virtue of what I've experienced and come through, someone else can benefit, then that's what I'm here to do. And so I've always talked about the challenges in my life. So that part of sharing this journey is makes a lot of sense to me. But the other piece was that when I entered into the world of addiction, with my eyes truly closed and not wanting to open, I went to the bookstore because I'm not a real like join a group, find a meeting. I'm not that kind of person. I'm an introvert. While I can share my stories quite comfortably in a small setting with one-on-one or two-on-one, something like that, I'm really not a huge group person for that kind of interaction. So I went to the bookstore and there was exactly nothing that was going to help me there.
Wow.
And I went to Barnes and Noble. I had one of the people who was at the reference desk searching in all kinds of data banks, and there was nothing. So having come through this journey, this piece of my journey, I felt it was really important for people to have a resource. And there are several others now that have come out, but everybody's story is a little bit different. So I didn't feel like I was saturating the market, so to speak. And I'm a life coach. So as a life coach, I actually kind of stood outside of myself and moved through the story. And my really fundamental hope is that people who are struggling as I did, or similarly anyway, can read the book and realize that their lives are worth living and that there is a path for them to walk that is completely apart from their addict.
So as a life coach, was that difficult for you to say, okay, so my life isn't perfect. Here I am telling you how to live. And, I'm putting out dumpster fires over here.
I like to believe that that I don't ever present myself as my life is perfect because none of our lives are perfect. We all have struggles. And while that 5-year period of my life was bar none the worst, I still have struggles. I mean, things come up. We're here. We're human. We're here to heal things and grow, hopefully. And so my my trajectory, if you will, is more about finding one's self and moving through our days as best we can as our authentic selves, right? So the story is the story. It's what I went through. It's raw. It's filled with pain, but it's also filled with how did I cope and how did I heal. So it's there's no perfect. It's I say right in the beginning, this is simply my story. It's not meant to be an advisory. Um, I am not telling anyone that they have to do A, B, or C because everybody's different, but there are things that worked for me, and if they can help others, it's been worth the ride.
And as a life coach, do you specialize in helping people who have been touched by addiction, or who's your ideal client?
I don't, and this is not meant to be offensive, but I hate that question because
Not offended.
because I have such a hard time defining who my ideal client is. I've coached people all over the world in many walks of life. The reality with coaching, the kind of coaching that I do is it's really it's a holistic thing. People have come to me with job woes or relationship woes or what do I want to be when I grow up woes or whatever. And it boils down to the same thing, and it's the same thing that I'm hoping with this book.
Yeah.
You have to be authentic. You have to find out who you are and bring forth the skill sets and the passions that are innately yours. And I've had clients who totally resist that, and I say, okay, let's work on why you came here. I don't usually go right into that. And inevitably it goes down the same path. so the addiction population or the people dealing with loved ones in addiction is relatively new. And over the last number of years, I spent more of my time writing than I did coaching. I'm really hoping that the book brings those people to me who I can work with and guide to their own happy place.
Okay, I love that. And so, because we wrote the book, you are the expert, but you said the book brings people to me. So what kind of marketing are you doing to?
Says the marketing specialist.
Yes. So what kind of marketing are you doing? Because we love to talk about here, what's working, what's not, giving tips and stuff like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, excuse me. Marketing is not where my skill set resonates. My publisher is a hybrid publisher, so I paid an amount and then I get a higher amount of proceeds from the book back. And putting me together with you was one of the podcasts she brought me to. I think there are things sort of in the background that are happening, but my personal entree into the marketing world isn't. Except for this.
This is a great start.
This is a place that I really struggle. And I have no problem obviously talking about my book and the value of my book or the value of my coaching. Though that also was a struggle years and years ago. So we all move forward in whatever directions, but I don't know how to market. We'll just leave it at that. I don't know how to.
Since you're here, let's talk about it a little bit, just from all the things that I have heard today. There are basically 3 things you want to put out there in the world. And you talked about this as your number 1 tenet of life is being authentic. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you're being authentic always. But the 3 things you want to put out there as your authentic self is stuff about how you're an authority. So tips, how-tos, and things like that. Mm-hmm. And another kind is engaging posts, engaging videos, asking people questions, drawing people in, not relying on the book to bring you people, but you actually going out there and talking about not just the book itself, but what's in the book, the themes of the book, which you so beautifully talked about, how this population is a newer population. And you were living it. There was no guidance, and now you've provided something very special. And then the third one is behind the scenes and letting people get to know you, and which you've done in the book by right by bearing all.
Yeah.
Do you have a copy of it near you?
I do.
Can we see the cover of it? Finding Myself. There we go. Oh, yeah.
There we go.
There we go. A mother's healing journey through her daughter's addiction. So now everybody can take a look at the title. You can get your copy. It's available, I'm guessing, on Barnes & Noble.
It's available on most online sellers. Okay. I do not know if it's available in the brick and mortars yet.
Oh yeah, we don't need brick and mortar. We're just in the online world here. So it's
pretty much, yeah. So it was really such an amazing process when the book went live, and it became an ebook back in May or June. No, I lied, July. Mm-hmm. But when it went live as a physical copy, and I Googled myself and saw all of these booksellers come up, it was like, whoa!
Right, like I've made it.
Crazy. Well, and yet, I talk to people every day who have no idea I wrote a book. So to your three beautiful guidances, that part is easy. It's finding those venues that is more challenging. We might have to talk.
Okay. Well, you know how to reach me, because I had to call you and text you and email you in order to make this happen this morning.
And I apologize. I never saw the email.
Do not apologize at all. I was just being one of those people. Going, okay, I'm calling you and leaving a voicemail that I'm going to text you. That's who I've turned into.
That's all. That was actually perfect for me.
Okay. So I have about, 50 unheard voicemails on my phone. Because if I can't read the voicemail anymore, I don't have time to listen to it. So don't leave me a voicemail, anybody. So back to, so we talked marketing, we talked about the book. So tell me, what was the process for you when you decided, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna write a book about everything that I've experienced. What changed for you? Was it a light bulb moment and you're like, I need to put this in a book? I mean, I know you said that you couldn't find a book, but when did you really decide, you know what, you were going to sit down and basically birth a book?
That's a great question. So I've known for many, many years that I had a book in me. I didn't have any idea what it was about. I am a writer. I do freelance editing and read other people's books and fix them. And, there's certain things that just work well for us. And sometimes it's the kind of thing that you're like, well, doesn't everybody do this? Well, no. When you read other people's writing, when I read other people's writing, it's like I want to have my red pen. I'm like, no, you need somebody to, so
I'm guilty of that too.
It's all good. And so, over the course of writing the book and prior, I've edited a number of novels. I've realized that this is just something that comes to me easily, and it really doesn't come to others easily. So writing a book has been sort of in my periphery for a very long time. And one of the individuals that's named in the book briefly, I was dating him, and all the names are changed except for mine, obviously. I was briefly dating him, and he knew about this skill set, and he said, Jude, you've got to start writing. And I said, well, what am I going to write about? I have nothing to write about. And he said, and he was sort of in the midst of the nightmare, and he said, write about this. And so as I went through it, as an aside kind of, I journal. And thankfully I journal, because so much of what I was feeling and thinking and doing was documented. So I was able, when I decided to write the book, I was able to go back and say, okay, was there any evidence? Was there any, specifics? Because I have a terrible memory. And I found those things, that and emails. There were lots of people who were being supportive with me in email. So I had all of that stuff, and it made sense. It just made sense. And as I started to write it, it just flowed. And I don't know if you are a believer that, but I am a believer that when things flow, they're right.
100%.
So it flowed, and I had no idea what I was going to do with it, where I was going to go with it, how it was going to be published, I still don't know exactly how it's going to get out to the people who will benefit from it, but it has flowed. Every step has kind of come to me, and I've been able to make it happen. So I'm super proud of the book. It's kind of funny when I think about it, because it is me raw and vulnerable. I always think of Brene Brown, like this is vulnerable,
right?
And yet I'm very comfortable inviting people to read it, because I know that it is well written and well guided. So little ego to speak there, but that's how I came to write it.
That's amazing. Now, have your family members read it? And
I do not believe they have. I very much would prefer they didn't.
Yeah.
It was an excruciatingly painful time for all of us. There was a lot of conflict that occurred. I do know that my niece read it, and we were at a family event, and she sat next to me and she said, "Aunt Judi, I read the book," and I started to cry. And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because I wanted to know what was in it." And she's in it in a less than beautiful light, of course, not directly in it. There are family members that are in it, but I don't want the public to recognize them. So everybody's sort of been deliberately fuzzy.
Deliberately fuzzy. I like that.
I said to her, "What do you think?" And she said, "I think it was a beautifully written book, and people need to read it." And I have goosebumps now, even telling you that, because
I have goosebumps too.
It's so
3,000 miles away from you. Yes.
Yeah, it's so overwhelmed me. So as far as I know, she's the only one that has read the book. Mm-hmm. And I'm grateful, that she was okay with it, and not just okay, but feels good about it. At this point in time, all of the pain, the relationship pain with my family from that time has been healed, or at least moved forward from. So, but my folks, my parents are so proud that I've birthed this book, and they say to me, "I don't know if I want to read it." And my answer is always, "Please don't."
Right.
I don't think it would be healthy for you. Right. And so there's a rub there, and it's hard because I can't fully share the book, the birthing of the book, and how momentous that is in my life with the people who are closest to me, my family. So that's kind of a hard thing.
I understand that. And that's why having growing a community of people, that is what's going to fill up your heart. I truly believe that.
So much fills up my heart, Melanie. I mean, really, I feel very blessed. People read the book and are like, "How are you so grateful all the time?" And I'm like, well, first of all, like, I'm here to talk about it. And second of all, I do believe there are silver linings in everything. And one of the most profound silver linings for this book was that I had a pretty rocky relationship with my mom for my life. I was 49 when this started, and 53, 54 when spoiler alert, when my daughter was able to be done, when she was in recovery. And I think she came home at that point. And she's been in recovery for 8 years. She's been clean for 8 years, which is, I couldn't be happier. And she is just a delight of a human being. You don't come through something like this in anything less than, sort of a grown up with a different perspective than you went in.
Right.
And where was I going with that? I that made me a little bit emotional. So silver lining. So within the confines of this nightmare, I had to set boundaries, which is something you probably understand. A lot of women understand in particular, but many of us are just not taught to have our own boundaries. We are taught to be pleasers.
I had this exact conversation with my mom about how she didn't learn boundaries. She said, and I didn't teach you boundaries. I said, you're right, because I don't know boundaries. Yet my kids have them. I don't know.
Yeah, it's super interesting about this generation now. They do much better. A lot more people. And I'm sure there's still those without boundaries, but I had no choice but to set boundaries with my mom because I was in survival mode. And in order to survive, I had to be extremely harsh about what was okay and what wasn't. And it was really painful for a little while. And then my mom heard me.
Wow.
And so what happened was like our whole, I think, viewpoint, at least mine of her, and I think vice versa, shifted. And I say suddenly, it took a year or more, but I suddenly was able to see her as the person she is, not as my mom giving me, agita, but as a human being with feelings and thoughts, and she's a beautiful human being. She's a really special person, and being able to finally break through that lens that was keeping me stuck in this child place.
Yeah.
Was miraculous. And so despite the fact that I would never wish this on anybody, and I ache for the thousands and maybe millions of people across the world who are dealing with it, because as we know, the opioid epidemic is just rising. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's getting bigger with COVID and everything.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but there are silver linings. For me, there were silver linings. And I believe that for anybody who is willing to sort of soul search a little bit and open their eyes, there will be silver linings. And it's hard. When you're in the thick of it, it's hard to see anything but gloom.
Well, gosh, thank you, Judi. This has been so enlightening, eye-opening. You've taken me on a roller coaster of emotions today, but I'm ending with the silver linings. So you so graciously offered to anybody watching who might be interested in having a complimentary session with you. So how can they go about booking that?
So my online presence, my website is called coloryourrainbow.com. My tagline used to be, it's your rainbow, choose your colors. Now my tagline is heal yourself, heal your children, which is something we didn't talk about, but I do believe energetically as we heal, those around us heal. So people can go to my website and fill out the form there. If there is, you tell me, is there an ability for people to comment on a link?
Absolutely. There will be lots of, so we're live on LinkedIn and we're live on Facebook. So people can.
So comment on the link and I will get that and reach out to you. If you are able, please just give me a couple words about what specifically you're looking for, but that's not essential. I will reach out to you then and we'll figure it out together.
Amazing. Thank you. So just to remind you, Judi's book is called Finding Myself in a Nightmare, a mother's healing journey through her daughter's addiction. There it is.
There it is.
Cover. And you can get it on all online platforms pretty much. And Judi, thank you so much for being here today. I am so grateful to know you, and I'm so grateful to have had you on as a guest.
Melanie, thank you so much. It feels right and good talking to you. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you.
Happy holidays. Happy New Year.